Wednesday morning, the FBI and NYPD raided the homes of current and former high-ranking members of the NYPD.
This one looking at more Adams administration officials.
Former Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, Tariq Shepard.
And also some current members of the NYPD.
Current Manhattan South Assistant Chief James McCarthy as part of a criminal investigation. Law enforcement sources tell CBS News New York this stems from an investigation into the former Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry.
But this is a joint investigation with Internal Affairs, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the Southern District of New York. They are looking into whether or not members of his senior leadership took money and or favors or gifts in order for preferential assignments
and promotions. Madry's home was also raided by the feds this morning, according to law enforcement sources.
Commissioner Tisch has already shown a real commitment to cracking down on corruption and ensuring that the public servants in the NYPD are held to the highest standards.
In a statement, Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said in part, this investigation and our actions this morning are part of the ongoing effort to fulfill that commitment and hold the department to its highest ideals. And she had this sobering warning for the new recruits at today's graduation ceremony.
You must act with integrity. The stakes could not be any higher.
James McCarthy also searched. He's been with the NYPD 41 years.
These are the top of the executives in charge of the NYPD. It's a bad look.
Fail to meet that standard, the consequences will be swift and they will be severe.
Do you know McCarthy, Jimmy McCarthy at all? Did you ever deal with him or?
Yeah. He was the XO of Patrol Borough Queens North when I was the CO of the 110 precinct.
Oh, who was the CO at the time?
It was Diana Pizzuti.
Oh, okay, Diana, yeah.
He was one of the XOs of the borough. So
yeah,
I dealt with him.
Yeah, I knew him in Manhattan South when he was his XO in Manhattan South. So I mean, never thought that he would be involved in any kind of corruption, truthfully. I kind of felt that he was a little bit shaky in some ways, that he wouldn't allow anything like that to happen. So kind of hit me by surprise when I heard his name. You know, the other two, you knew that they were part of it, right? And the other two were, you know, Madry, who's been involved with everything else, and you know, with all the corruption, everything else, and you know, he had to figure Tariq Shepard's. I don't know. I mean, when he pushed Dolan, right?
That was insane.
That was crazy, and then for him to think he could get away with that. I mean, obviously his ego is pretty big, so I could see those two. We understood that, and then all of a sudden they threw McCarthy in the middle of it. So I think, to me, I personally believe it has something to do with the hotels and the immigrants and stuff. Because were there credit cards being passed around that they could use, credit cards to buy stuff? That's what I had heard. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know the intimate details of it. I mean, that's what we titled the show. Our
indictments coming down.
Because we don't know.
Yeah.
It's a criminal investigation. We know that. They did search warrants on all three of their homes. Commissioner Tisch made her statement. We're going to play a newscast in a minute. But Commissioner Tisch said that it's been a joint criminal investigation with the Internal Affairs Bureau, FBI, and the Southern District of New York, the U.S. Attorney's Office. So until the indictment is released and we're able to read the indictment and what the allegations are, like with the Carone brothers, who allegedly took $100,000 funneled through a law firm in order to give those no-bid contracts to the hotels.
Right.
We don't really know. What's being reported in the news is that, these are all bribery-related investigations with regards to promotions within the department and special assignments to people. which was rumored in the past and reported on the Finest Unfiltered network. I remember at one point there were allegations, just rumors and allegations again, that people were paying upwards of $10,000 to get promoted. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we thought, how insane is that? And now you actually have a federal investigation into bribery related. Again, this is coming out in the news. It was reported in the news. But until we see the actual indictment, we won't know what the facts are, what the dates are, and everything else. So, but that's the allegation. So listen, waiting for the indictments. Listen, to modify and transfer a 41-year veteran, 2-star chief, borough commander of Manhattan South, which is one of the premier assignments in the NYPD, is to, if you're going to be a borough commander, is to be the borough commander of Manhattan South. There's so much going on, right? So we'll see what happens when the indictment comes down, and then take it from there. But it's alarming, and again, we'll see. We'll see what happens when they actually.
I was going to say, I just don't know where McCarthy comes into play, because I can understand, okay, you're paying, and I don't know where people are getting $10,000 or $15,000 to buy, unless you're taking a pension loan and then pay up for a promotion. I think that's insane. Anybody that did that is crazy in itself. But the fact is, I could see maybe Shepard and Madge, definitely Madry, and some, maybe even the person from the mayor's office, right? The chief of staff. I can understand maybe that there's pay there to get promoted, but I don't understand where McCarthy falls into play with that, unless that's why I kind of think there might be even more to it. There mean something with the hotels. There might be some sort of benefit, because the Roosevelt Hotel and all of that, isn't that Manhattan South?
Yeah, but again, I would think that would have fell under the Northern District's investigation, where the Carone brothers were arrested yesterday, and that was for just that, being involved in taking bribes for those no-bid contracts.
Yeah.
So I would think that if it had to do with that, and again, it's pure speculation, right? He's not, that nobody from the NYPD is named in that indictment. But these indictments, these search warrants are part of a criminal investigation, and again, we have to wait. And Mike Freed is saying it here, it was supposed to be released yesterday afternoon, but nothing came down then or today. Yeah, we were looking for it. And I don't remember where I heard that the indictments were supposed to be dropped yesterday afternoon. We might have confused that in the social media blitz of everything that was going on between the search warrants and then the arrests from the Adams administration, that the indictment from the Northern District was coming down yesterday afternoon, which it did. So maybe that's the case, because they were arrested, then they dropped the indictment, made the indictment public afterwards. Whereas Tariq Shepard, Jeff Madry, and Jimmy McCarthy, and also Lieutenant Jimmy Lee from Manhattan South, who was also modified and transferred in regards to this. They were not arrested, so they have not been in charge. So you would believe that there's no indictments. But the fact that at 6:30 in the morning, Commissioner Tisch, modifies Jimmy McCarthy and transfers him, you would think that something was coming down, because it came out in the news of the search warrants. And maybe it was just because they were doing the search warrants, just like, Ed Caban, after his phone was taken and his house was searched, he stepped down. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, It
Yeah.
could be separate. It could be separate investigations. I mean, maybe it just all came down at once, and they wanted to do all the search warrants together. I just can't fathom the idea of being a 2-star chief or a 3-star chief, 4-star chief, and you're home, and the next thing you know, it's 6 a.m. You got the FBI knocking on your door. I mean, it's just got to be heart dropping. And the other question I had was, and I didn't understand, is if so they already had information on Madry and stuff, and I really think they already took his phones and things like that. And now to execute a search warrant so far down the road, I would assume that there's additional evidence or there's additional information that they need to get, because otherwise you would have thought they would have got that on the original search warrants and the original when they were looking into the case. So I'm thinking, and this is just speculation on my part. If you look at Banks and you look at Harrington and you look at that indictment, and there was a uncharged co-conspirator written in Harrington's indictment. So I think somebody gave up information. Somebody dropped a dime. There's somebody here that maybe that wasn't arrested or wasn't pushed in this indictment, but is now giving information against these individuals, which spurred the necessity to execute search warrants on these 3 people to get evidence based on somebody must have testified in front of a court, in front of a judge, and said, "Hey, this is new evidence, and we need to execute search warrants." So,
they need probable cause in front of the judge
warrant,
in order to get the search warrant, right?
Yeah.
That there is some type of contraband. Now, again, there is no indictment that we know of. That even it hasn't even been reported that there's an unsealed indictment on any of these individuals. So we got to be careful not to. Again, it all happened yesterday. The Carone brothers, the Northern District, with that scandal, and then this. So kind of everybody's putting it all together. But there is no indictment, and that's the the thing. And again, we had search warrants back in January of 2025 on Jeff Madry, but that was related to the overtime scandal with Quatisha Epps, which this is being reported has nothing to do with that case.
Right.
So this is a separate case, and it's also been reported that there's another case, possibly against, Jeff Madry that's not even a part of this. But we'll get into that. Let's play the news clip to give that. Mike Freed is saying that he's talking about Jimmy McCarthy, put his papers in, which to those who aren't NYPD means that he submitted for his retirement. And I don't know how old Jimmy is, but he's got 41 years on the job, so he's got to be close to aging out. But I did hear that, and I'm not sure if I heard that on another show, that he went to go drop his papers. They can't stop you from retiring. There's implications if you retire without the permission of the police commissioner, that you don't get that good guy letter, that you don't get, so you won't be able to get your pistol license unless, there's lawsuits going on right now with other people about getting their pistol licenses in their home rule 218 cards after not getting the good guy letter. So you can't stop someone after 20 years from retiring. However, they can hold it up for processing for 30 days. You have to give the job 30 days to process any kind of trial against you, which rushes the deal. So I did hear that. I didn't see it written anywhere. So, to Mike's point, I don't know. But let's take a look at the news report that came out yesterday on this.
Better Edouard. We begin with the growing NYPD corruption scandal. The FBI investigation started with former Chief of Department James Madry and a probe into overtime.
It's now expanded to include a bribery investigation involving Assistant Chief Jimmy McCarthy and former NYPD Deputy Commissioner Tariq Shepard.
Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles is at police headquarters in Lower Manhattan. Darla?
Sade and Joe, this is a joint investigation with Internal Affairs, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the Southern District of New York. They are looking into whether or not former Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey and members of his senior leadership took money and or favors or gifts in order for preferential assignments and promotions. FBI agents seen at the home of former NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey from Newscopter 7 Wednesday morning. It's been a year and a half since he abruptly stepped down as the highest-ranking uniformed officer, but his 2-year tenure still under scrutiny. The joint investigation now looking into allegations of bribery related to promotions and assignments.
This is an investigation that the NYPD is conducting with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York.
Search warrants executed at multiple locations today. The home of former Deputy Commissioner of Public Information Tariq Shepard, who retired last May after 21 years with the department. At times, the center of controversy for his social media post and tension with former interim Commissioner Tom Donlin. The home of current Assistant Chief of Manhattan Patrol Borough South, James McCarthy, also searched. He's been with the NYPD 41 years. Commissioner Jessica Tisch issuing a statement saying, "This investigation and our actions this morning are part of the ongoing effort to fulfill that commitment and hold the department to its highest ideals." But the bribery investigation into Maddrey, Shepard, and McCarthy is separate from the overtime abuse and sexual harassment claims by a former NYPD lieutenant. And today we learned there is a third FBI investigation into Maddrey for reasons unknown. And federal agents have still been silent on their investigation into former NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban, which prompted his resignation in September 2024.
Commissioner Tisch has already shown a real commitment to cracking down on corruption and ensuring that the public servants in the NYPD are held to the highest standards. I'm confident that she will lead us through this process.
Commissioner Tisch, leading since November 2024, brought in to stabilize the NYPD after the departure of 2 commissioners in just 2 months. First, Caban's resignation, and then Donlin, forced to step down in an investigation into document retention from his tenure at the FBI. Now, Assistant Chief McCarthy is the only active duty NYPD member that is part of this investigation. He has been placed on modified duty pending the outcome. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really all what we're hearing, right? That's really all that we know. And you know, again, there was rumors a year ago of you know, pay for play, you know, for promotions, for what we call grade, right? For detective 2nd grade, detective 1st grade, sergeant special assignment, lieutenant special assignment. There was rumors, and we don't, you know, we hear these rumors, but they're just that. And now there seems to have some, you know, there seems to have some teeth to it. But to your point, absolutely, somebody came forward, you know, and like we always say, you follow the money. It's not going to be very difficult if somebody makes allegations that they paid $10,000, whatever the case may be, for a promotion, for them to show they withdrew $10,000. You know, because who's got $10,000 laying in a shoebox in their closet or under their bed? Not too many cops that I know of. Like you said, either they took it out of their bank account, or they took out a pension loan or some kind of municipal credit loan or something like that in order to make these payments, which I'm sure were in cash. And then if they're making allegations, or if it's someone from the inside, because listen, if you're looking at a time period where someone says, yeah, I paid Jeff Maddrey, or I paid Jimmy McCarthy, or I paid Tariq Shepard, and there's a time frame, it's not too difficult to look at the discretionary promotions that were given out in that time period go to a judge, get administrative subpoenas for financial records of everybody that got promoted in a discretionary manner. And then you see certain people within a month, whatever, maybe 2 months, whatever the time frame is, however long they go back, and see that, all right, this person took out a large sum, this person took out a large sum, this person took out a large sum, and then you put it together, then you bring those people in, and they get scared, and people talk. So there's quite a possible, way that this went down. But again, we don't know.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be a paper trail to it, somewhere, somehow. It's probably not the hardest investigation to really do. You have to see who got promoted, like you just said, and then see who withdrew money from their accounts or anything else. Again, though, what I don't understand is, and especially since the lieutenant in the borough also got suspended or modified. I'm sorry, and transferred. I don't understand how he plays. Like, I don't know if that was McCarthy's right-hand man. That was somebody that he leaned on. Was he the, I don't know, so is he the envelope guy? Was he the guy getting it and then going into McCarthy? I don't know how much power McCarthy had, though, over promotions, because listen, I worked for a 2-star chief, and you didn't have that. You didn't have a lot of power, right? You put names up, and you hoped, and you said, hey, I really want this guy. And I mean, you would really, really have to push. Now, I don't know if McCarthy's getting money and he's floating it up to Madry, and maybe, Shepard or whatever, however it played out. But somehow there's that involvement. So I don't know exactly. When you talk about bribery, right, it means that you're getting a reward for something, and you're paying for it through to somebody else, or giving some sort of, service or gratuity or whatever for that person. So I'm still a little confused, and I guess we'll always be confused until we actually get the written indictments or whatever as to what happened. How did McCarthy involvement? When you talk about McCarthy, right? When I remember, as far as I can remember, he's been a 1-star chief. He was a 1-star chief for a long time. Okay, and I don't think he got 2 stars till he actually went to Manhattan South. And I could say that he's probably been a chief longer than Madry, Tariq Shepard, definitely Tariq, right? And so I don't, with that much knowledge and that much understanding, I don't understand how all of a sudden you go rogue and say, especially when you're coming up, you have 42 years on the job, you're probably close to aging out, right? You have to figure the guy's going to be close to 63 years of age, so he's going to have to leave anyway. So all of a sudden, he decides that, hey, this might be a good investment for me to start taking money. I just don't understand where that comes into play, unless he was, I could see him doing is Madry or somebody, or even Tariq Shepard when he was a 3-star, or the deputy commissioner, or whatever he was, said, hey, I need this favor. I need you to, go to this hotel. I need you to get them tickets for this, get them tickets for that, which I know Manhattan South has that capability because, with the Lower Manhattan Security Initiative, they have the, Times Square Alliance and everything else. So they have a lot of, play with that. So I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it, but to me, it's McCarthy just, I don't know. I didn't think he would do something like that, especially with that much time on the job and how he fell into that web, So it's kind of scary because you when you talk about corruption, it's all on the top, right? The poor cops on the ground, right? They're working 12-hour tours. They're doing turnarounds where they got to come back within a couple hours after they get released. And then these guys are sitting pretty, probably eating dinner and hanging out and enjoying themselves. And then on top of that, getting cash or money somehow forwarded to them to get promotions. I mean, that's insane. I just, what? And they deserve, if this is true, if the allegations of what we believe is true, then they deserve to be they deserve jail time, really, at this point, because they're higher up there, and then they should be representing the department and representing integrity. Clearly, they're not.
Yeah, I mean, again, just allegations, and they're not even indicted, which I don't understand. Somebody talked about it earlier. I forget who mentioned it. That these investigations take a long time, but I mean, come on. We're talking 2-3 years now that these investigations and these allegations have been going on. Tom Donlan's lawsuit was not groundbreaking. It basically it either confirmed what was going on, gave us a little more insight to what was going on and who the players were, and the abuse of authority with the police commissioner's stamp on promotions that he did not personally approve, because the police commissioner, even though the chief of department gets their selection, the first deputy commissioner gets their selection, and the police commissioner's office, the police commissioner is the one that approves any discretionary promotion. Discretionary promotion is any promotion that's not from a civil service exam where someone passed an exam and their list number comes up to it's their turn to get promoted. So, his lawsuit spelled out they were using the rubber stamp of his name on the promotion paperwork, that Tariq Shepard, stamped his own promotion, as well as a lot of other promotions that he wasn't in the know about and didn't approve. But where did these promotions come from? Like you said, a 2-star chief doesn't make promotions. They make recommendations. But if you're in an inner circle, and I don't know Chief McCarthy well enough to know what his inner circle is. I don't know who he worked closely with through the years and whatnot. But obviously they have something that they feel is tangible enough to get a search warrant for his residence, that the police commissioner, again, modifies a 2-star chief, which is a big deal. You're actually a city executive as a 2-star chief, as an assistant chief in the NYPD. You don't even belong to the Captain's Endowment Association union. That only goes up to the 1-star chief. Once you become a 2-star chief, you become a city executive. So your time records are different. Your days off and vacation and everything else is totally different than a normal uniformed member of the service up to the rank of 1-star chief. But again, you don't make those decisions. You don't say this person's getting promoted, that person's getting promoted. But these investigations are going on for a long time. And we said the same thing the last time in January of 25. You're talking about 16 months ago, that there were search warrants and there were no indictments. The only person that got indicted was the mayor. And then that, got dropped. Some sweetheart deal or whatever, that got dropped.
Yeah. So, and also, I don't know if you had to do it as a precinct commander, but there's also a financial disclosure report that's done. I know that, so you have to basically put down your expenditures and everything that you've done for that year. So they could also have something like this too, where there was maybe money was forwarded or money was given or whatever. And, they didn't report that as well. So yeah, I was looking at that when McLovin said, right? He said Shepard and Madry hated McCarthy. They tried to do him several times. Banks and Adams protected him because of McCarthy's Jewish connections. I don't think McCarthy was a paid promotion BS. So that's my question is what is his involvement? I truthfully, it's more of the hotels and the kickback. I think it's something to do with the immigration money and that was funded to New York City to pay, and there was money funded back, whether or not he got it in dinners or he got it in a bar tab or whatever. I think because I know McCarthy, so there may have been It may have been something like that, where it was funded through something else, you know, so.
Don't forget that under the Adams administration, and these investigations are going back, you know, a couple of years. Don't forget, under the Adams administration, that Timmy Pearson was in charge of all promotions up to the rank of inspector, right? I think. Or no, he took care of he did the detectives, the sergeants and lieutenants discretionary promotions, and then Banks was the one who did the promotions for executives. So there's a possibility of it with that connection, right? Because they were the ones that made the decisions on who was getting promoted. And that came up in the lawsuit as well. And that was also pretty much well known. I don't think that was even a secret that they were the ones that, you know, you weren't getting promoted without Timmy Pearson's okay for under the executive ranks, and you weren't getting promoted without Phil Banks III's sign off for an executive discretionary promotion. So there is still a possibility that it was tied in that way, because, you know, there's a lot of stuff still under investigation with, you know, Banks and Timmy Pearson. And, you know, I have to assume that even, you know, the former mayor.
Yeah. I mean, I know that we used to put down names for promotions and it would get sent downtown. And even when, you know, the PC would say, okay, that list also got sent over to City Hall, and the mayor would have to look at it. And oftentimes it would get sent back and we would have to redo the list, or the person would just be crossed off. You'd be like, what happened? I put in this person, the PC signed off. So, and to your point earlier, yes, you know, the police commissioner, I've seen the actual lists from the police commissioner where it said the discretionary promotion to deputy chief, to inspector, deputy inspector, all on that list, and you see his signature on it. So, you know, for Donlin, who, you know, now I can understand where Tariq Shepard gets involved in it, because if Tariq Shepard's just having the auto pen or giving the rubber stamp was usually what you saw on, you know, like when you got a commendation, or you got like a certificate for you know, doing something from the PC. You know, it would be a rubber stamp. You know, that guy's not signing everything. His hand would be broken. So that's where you used to see it. I could see where he was probably stamping that. If the allegation is that himself and Madry are getting money, and then they're just rubber stamping it, and Donlin does no knowledge of it at all, I could see that happening. And then where I have a problem is where, you know, McCarthy comes into play. Now, it could be completely unrelated. It could be something different. It could be that, you know, giving favoritism to them, like, you know. So I don't know if McCarthy, if what was said earlier, if McCarthy wasn't in favor of Madry and Shepard, you could also speculate that maybe he was trying to get in favor, so he was doing things that normally you wouldn't do as a borough CO. You know, trying to you know, help the chief of department or chief of whatever he was, DCPI. He changed like 5 times, so I don't know, you know. So that, and you know, to me, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but a man with 42 years on the job, knows the things, the implications that could happen, and to take that risk at the end is stupid.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.